Welcome to In the Black, where we celebrate stories of transformation, resilience, and rising into the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Araceli, and this space was created to amplify voices often overlooked. Women who've come through the fire with wisdom, strength, and heart. Whether you're here for healing, clarity, or just good conversation, you belong here. Let's get into it. Today on In the Black podcast, we're joined by Talia, a survivor whose story is nothing short of miraculous. After a routine prescription of ciprofloxacin for a simple UTI, she lost more than half her body weight, entered hospice care, and was told her life was nearing its end. Against all odds, Talia fought her way back and now uses her second chance at life to advocate for fluoroquinolone toxicity awareness. From her hospital bed, she's changing lives and shining light on a drug most of us know nothing about. Let's welcome Talia and her incredible story of survival, resilience, and advocacy. Is that accurate?
Exactly. That's accurate. That's it to a T.
Are you still in the hospital?
I'm still in my hospital bed. Do you see I'm sitting on it? I do all
Oh
my work.
no.
I do all my work from my hospital bed. I have 24/7 care. I'm still on palliative care. I can't even get in and out of bed by myself. But I figure out a way to do all of these things. So it means that much to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm literally in a hospital bed right now.
That's amazing. So, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about who Talia is, maybe who Talia was before all of this?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me. My name is Talia Smith. It's kind of hard to remember who I was before. I've been like this for so long, but who I was before was someone that was so full of energy and life. I was so healthy. And this was something that I wanted to do. Nobody forced me to do it. It was something that me and my husband both put a lot of work into, making sure we ate well, we took care of ourselves, worked out pretty often. It just gives you a better overall, general health. I was a very driven person. I had a very stressful and busy job in corporate America with a big team reporting to me. Uh, 10 years before I got sick, my husband was injured overseas, and I became his primary caretaker. He is a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and medically retired from the Marine Corps. So I ended up having to be his caretaker, plus work, plus, the things that I used to do. So I had a very busy and full life. But I can tell you, as stressful as that life was, we made the best of it every single day. We always made the best out of a bad situation. And for some reason, I don't know if it's naive or whatever it was, I honestly thought that you can only go through something that traumatic once in your life, right? What happened to my husband was so traumatic. He almost didn't make it. And I didn't think something like that could ever happen to us again, like we were immune. But a decade later, I get a simple urinary tract infection, and I almost didn't make it either. And I think, like, yes, I'm happy to be here, but in the same token, it's like, what a cruel twist of fate for the universe, right? That both of us are in wheelchairs now, and both of us need 24/7 care. So it's been quite the journey, but here I am, and I think people can see this in my advocacy, the the spark that I had in me before, the energy, the go getter. It's still there. I'm doing this from my hospital bed. It'd be so much easier to not do any of this, but I think that's very visible to the people that see me advocating. And I always say, like, you think like I have all this energy now, you should have seen me before. I'm at like 50% capacity. But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Ah, that's so beautiful, especially you hear it so often. People in my world find excuses and again, I try to remind them like, hey, you get to live one life, you get to utilize your time in the most purpose-driven way. And
Hmm.
here you are, just like you said, you can just stay in the hospital bed and take the easy route and not do anything about it. But here you are
Yeah.
advocating to help other individuals. So that's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Can you take us back to the beginning? What led to you being prescribed, again, I can't say it,
Ciprofloxacin, yes.
ciprofloxacin, and what were you told about it?
So I'll start off by saying ciprofloxacin is one of the medications in a class of fluoroquinolone antibiotics. So for people watching this podcast, it's very important to know that it's not just ciprofloxacin. That's the one that took me down, but there's like 7 or 8 others that people need to be aware of. So I just want to make that clear up front. And people can experience fluoroquinolone toxicity like I did from pills, from injectables, from IV, eye drops, and eardrops. People think because they're eye drops and eardrops that nothing can happen, but that's not the case either. Right? I just want to let people know that right from the beginning because I didn't know any of this before I got sick. So in 2021, I developed a urinary tract infection. I was not someone that had urinary tract infections. In fact, with the doctor I had her for 10 years and I had never had a urinary tract infection since I was a patient of hers. So it wasn't like I had recurring infections. But once you have one in your life, especially as a woman, you know what that feels like. You have to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes and you just have pain. I called and I said, I'm pretty sure I have a urinary tract infection. And, they wanted to write me a prescription, but I said, no, I want to go in and I want to have a urinalysis and I want to have a culture. I want to make sure I know the right bacteria. And I know this because my husband, in his disability with having urinary tract infections and stuff. So I want a culture to make sure I know the specific organism. So it came back. And of course, yes, I did actually have a urinary tract infection because I didn't want to take antibiotics if I didn't have to. But this is the thing, the bacteria count, as she told me, was so small that she wouldn't typically prescribe an antibiotic for it. It's just that I was so symptomatic, literally going to the bathroom every 5 minutes. So that's why she prescribed me the antibiotic. So I was prescribed ciprofloxacin, and I asked, is there anything I need to be aware of this medication? I don't take antibiotics regularly. In fact, I don't really take any medication regularly, just supplements, going to the gym. So I was scared. And she said, there's nothing you need to be aware of. Cipro is safe and effective, and we use it all the time for urinary tract infections. So that was my doctor for a decade, who I trusted with my life. But thinking back on it, I never actually really needed her for anything. So I'm not really sure where that trust came from, but I did trust her and I took her word for it. And I started taking the medication. It was 500 milligrams every 12 hours. There's a lot of people that say, I can't believe you took 3 pills at one time. I don't know how that gets misconstrued in my story, but I did not take 3 pills at one time. I took my first pill. 12 hours later, I took my second pill. Everything's fine. On my third pill is when, very quickly after, I started feeling sore. Like my body was very sore. Almost like the way I describe it was like I had the flu, but I wasn't sick, And as the day went on, I kept getting worse and worse. Like I had pain so bad on my heels, I could barely stand. And, I said to my husband, I feel like something's wrong. I have so much pain, my heels hurt. And he said, oh, you did all this work around the house today because it was a Sunday. And I said, yeah, but I always do. Why is today any different? And it was literally hour by hour, things were changing. I started getting like this zapping feeling in my head, like I was being electrocuted. I had this thing on my face that was like pulsing like a nerve. And my fingers and feet started getting numb. I started panicking, and I was supposed to take that fourth pill that night. And something inside me said, don't do it. I honestly didn't think it was the antibiotic, but I wasn't sure. But I just didn't take it. I couldn't risk it. And by some miracle, I was able to put my husband to bed with the Hoyer lift. I was limping. I was a mess. And I said to my husband, you know what? I'm going to go to bed, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up and be fine. because that's how I used to think. I always recovered from everything very quickly. Next morning I woke up, I fell out of bed, and I couldn't walk. I was limping, and I said, I have to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital. I went to the emergency room, rolled in a wheelchair. Ugh. And I said, somehow overnight, like, I can't walk. It's the craziest story. You're going to think I'm crazy. I don't know what happened. And he looked at me right away, like without even a pause, and said, are you taking Cipro? That's also ciprofloxacin. It's the same thing. And I said, yeah. And he saw my face and he said, don't panic. And I'm like, of course I'm panicking. There's all these medications in the world, and you automatically go to Cipro. I know that means there's some problem here that I'm not aware of. And he said, have you ever heard what a black box warning was? Nope. And he said, this is the one for Cipro. He gave part of it, but it was more than my own doctor had given me. And I said, she said I had nothing to be aware of. And he said, no, I mean, there's Achilles heel. And he's like, I see it often. It's not like it's that rare. But so calm down, go home, take ibuprofen, and rest for the next 3 days, and you'll be fine. What that doctor didn't know is ibuprofen and all NSAIDs are contraindicated with fluoroquinolones. So when I was going home, popping those ibuprofen and Aleve around the clock, I was actually making myself worse. And that's why I couldn't figure out. This doctor said if I was resting, why am I getting worse? But I didn't know anything about this stuff at the time. And I went home and I got worse, and it was like a snowball effect. I went downhill so fast. Um, I literally lost 10 pounds in 1 week. At that time, I was still able to eat normally. And it's like, how can I lose 10 pounds in 1 week when I'm eating all my food like normal? It doesn't make sense. Especially I'm not working out. Like, you figured you would gain weight not working out, but I was losing it like rapidly. And then I started developing, a couple months later, I started developing these reactions. Oh God, to food, to supplements, the supplements that I was taking that they tell you should take when you get flux, magnesium, all this stuff. I was reacting to everything. And then I was like, something's really wrong here. I'm having issues even drinking water. I couldn't swallow. I ended up being a frequent flyer in the hospital, admitted 3 times. It was a disaster, honestly. And every hospital I went to, I begged for feeding tubes because I couldn't figure out how else to get me the nutrition that I needed, especially the fact that I was choking on water. I was choking on my own saliva, right? And I'm like, how am I going to survive if I'm choking on my own saliva? And the very last emergency room that I went to, that I was admitted, and these are all leading hospitals in the country in Boston, let me tell you, very disappointing. And the last one I went to, and I tell the story all the time because it's so shocking to me, where I was at that time like 62 pounds. And they ran my labs, and they said they were going to send me home, and they were not going to give me a feeding tube, and to come back in 3 weeks. I'm like, what happens in 3 weeks? And they said, well, by your blood labs, this is when we estimate your organs will start failing. They said, whoa, wait, what? You want me to go home, go into organ failure, and then you'll give me a feeding tube? I'm not understanding this. Like, this is the craziest thing to me. My husband was crying, he was begging. They honestly didn't care. I went home on hospice. Hospice came a couple days later. I was 60 pounds at that point, and they admitted me. You know, they have to go through their whole process too, making sure you have 6 months or left to live, and all that stuff. And I was admitted to hospice. I weighed 60 pounds, 60. And I was pretty sure that was the end of it. I mean, even hospice was saying probably 1 to 2 months, maybe, but I had already not eaten for a month. Can you imagine? No food, no water for 1 month. I wasn't even really urinating anymore. There was nothing to urinate. I wasn't taking anything in. So that's why they were saying like 2 months would be a stretch. Even a month might be a stretch at this rate, like, because you can't survive that long without eating or drinking. I did. But yeah, and I was admitted to hospice, and then from there, they talk to you about all the stages of grief, right? Kubler-Ross, that whole thing. I went down so fast in 5 months that I skipped all those stages of grief, like denial, anger. I had to shoot right down to acceptance, because when hospice is there and telling you that you have 1 to 2 months to live, and I didn't disagree. I wasn't eating. I couldn't eat. So it's not like they made me feel this way. They confirmed the way I was feeling. I even had an episode of stop breathing. And, once that happened, I had a priest come to my house and read my last rites, because if that was going to happen again, I wanted to make sure I had my last rites. I grew up very religious. And I'll tell you this, it was one thing when hospice came, but when the priest came and read my last rites, and it doesn't get any lower than that. You cannot get any lower in life than that, really. And he asked me if I was scared, and I said no. And he said, I'm so happy you made peace to go back home. And he started his whole process, and everybody was crying, and my mother was screaming, and I was just trying to focus on getting through that, making sure that was so important to me that my last rites were read, focusing on myself. And because I don't even think I would have made it through that day if I had to somehow disconnect, because their tears and screams were just gutting me in half, that I wasn't going to be around anymore. And then my husband said, after that day, my husband said, we're flying the kids in. My stepson's in the military, and my stepdaughter is in college. And he just kept saying, hold on till they get here. They're almost here. I was having absent seizures. I don't remember long periods of time. My stepson was with me for a week. I remember 5 minutes of him being there. I was literally starving to death. Everything shuts down. And the way I tell the story is that two things really saved me. One from an emotional perspective and one from a physical perspective, is that my husband found someone in one of my fluoroquinolone groups online, and he said, your wife sounds exactly like me. I think your wife has mast cell activation syndrome from fluoroquinolone, from the Cipro. And if she doesn't get some medication, she's going to die. So stop focusing on being floxed right now and focus on getting her mast cell stabilizers. So my husband went off on his tangent there, calling the hospital, calling doctors, trying to get me some cromolyn, H1, H2 blockers, all the things that people take for mast cell, or MCAS they call it. And while that was going on, my stepchildren came. And, I tell them all the time, not a day goes by that I don't let them know how grateful I am, because they're a huge part why I'm still here, because to them, they came to say goodbye to me. But to me, it was like I didn't want to let them go. It was like, the way I describe it is, I had this flicker that was still there. And seeing them and saying goodbye, saying I was so angry I'd never be able to see them get married or have children, it turned my flicker into a flame. And whatever I had left, whatever little teeny bit was there, I just fought harder. And my husband got me medication. And for all the doctors that gaslit me and didn't pay attention to me and didn't take me seriously, after 5 days, 7 days a week of cromolyn sodium, I was eating an Ensure pudding in 7 days. And I had been going through this for months, of doctors gaslighting me, not believing me, telling me I was anorexic. And so once I was able to swallow pudding, because it's thick enough to swallow, but not thin enough you could choke on, it was like perfect consistency. I knew in that moment I had a chance. The second I get any kind of food in my body, I have a chance to survive. And for a while, I was just eating pudding. I didn't really have an appetite, but I knew that was going to sustain me. And I was taking very little sips of water. And then that turned into, I need to eat like human food. And we started like baby food. That was so gross. I don't even want to think about that. That's what I was thinking of because of the swallowing. And then we started with adult food, pureeing it, and seeing what I was having reactions and what I wasn't to. I ended up with a total of 6 foods that I could eat. It's 5 now. Unfortunately, I lost one. but that is really what saved my life. If I didn't get any kind of food in me, I would not be here today. It is truly, truly a miracle that, my stepchildren gave me that, whatever, whatever is there, just, and the fact that, going off of a whim from someone on Reddit, it wasn't really a whim. Like, I literally have exactly what he had. Um, Saved my life too. And my husband would call the doctors 10, 15 times a day. He was the one looking crazy, but he was doing anything to save my life. And it worked. And then, of course, me fighting, like I have to fight. You can give me all the medicine you want to give me, but I wanted to be here. I didn't want to leave him. I didn't know what was going to happen to him if I was no longer here. And, I spent 9 months on hospice. At the 6 month mark, I was going to be transferred, but then I had a setback and they kept me. So at 9 months, I was transitioned to palliative care. This is now May of 2022. And my husband said, "You need to tell your story." But I was so weak still. I mean, when I transitioned to palliative care, I was still in the 60s. I think I was 68. Um, and I just, I said, I think it's a good idea to tell my story, but I'm just not strong enough yet. I couldn't speak. I couldn't sit up for long periods of time. And I said, if I'm going to tell my story, I'm either all in or all out. This isn't going to be like sugarcoating anything. I'm going to tell people exactly what happened to me. And then around September 2023, so now this is over 2 years after I got floxed, was when I finally felt strong enough to go on social media. And I was asked by a group of Floxies, who are now my Floxy family, I call them. They were writing letters to the FDA. And I still couldn't see. I filmed it on TikTok pretty much in one take because I had been sitting in the bed for years knowing once I got an opportunity to speak, these were going to be the things I wanted to say. So it came out so quickly, and I posted that video on TikTok. And when I look back on it now, it's kind of scary to see how I looked, but it's kind of amazing, like how much I was fighting. Like, look at me, I'm a skeleton, and I'm sitting there reading my letter on social media to the FDA. Honestly, I didn't think anybody was going to care. And that video went viral. And then I posted a video of me in my hospital bed a week later. That had like 500,000 views. And I said, oh my God, people actually care. I don't think they care about sick people, but that's not the case. And then right after that, guess who I got a call from? The FDA. Oh my God, the FDA. So then I knew in that moment, people were paying attention to me. And I said, now that I have your attention, I got to go. And I got to go at a rapid pace before I lose my momentum and I lose the attention. And so since then, I've been pretty much nonstop. I was part of the project for getting ICD-10 codes, which are medical billing codes or diagnostic codes for fluoroquinolone adverse effects. They never existed. In fact, they don't exist yet until October 1st, but I was part of that project and the team to actually make that happen from my hospital bed, thinking there's no way the CDC is going to give us these codes, like I'm doing this from my hospital bed, but they did. It was approved. So that just gave me more momentum. Like, look at me, look what I'm doing from my bed. And then, like, after that, I did Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day, informed consent petition. I have my own show now on the USA Global and TV radio network, called This Is Flox, that I do once a month. It's about all I can tolerate is once a month. But um, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, that drive, that purpose is what keeps me going. And I'm like, I have the second chance. I gotta go with it. I can't waste this second chance. That was a lot. I know I just blabbed on for a while, but I hope that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wow. That is just, I mean, unheard of to me. Unbelievable. And I mean, side note, this is why I left working at the hospital. I wasn't a nurse or anything, but I was an exercise physiologist. And I quickly realized that they weren't in there for preventative care. They were in there for numbers and money and money, money, money. And I was like, in my little younger brain back then, I was like, well, we can do this and we can do this to make this program better, blah, blah. And they were just like, no, shut me out.
Yeah.
It came from higher up. You can't do any of the things that you wanted to increase results, but we just want them in and out the door. And it was just not a anything that I wanted to be a part of. So I quickly, like, not quickly, it took me a long time to leave the space. But no, that is just
It was hard for
yours.
me too because I was never sick before. I didn't know how to navigate the medical system. Me being so naive thought, I got sick and they were going to take care of me and fix me. And that's actually the opposite. They made me worse every time I went to see them. And it's the whole and it's the whole medical system. You know, the medical system, the pharmaceuticals, the doctors, the way doctors are trained, the pharmacists, like it's the whole thing that's broken. And I didn't understand that. And I was like, why can't people help me? Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And then I quickly realized that if I wanted to save my life, I was going to have to leave the Western medical system because I really do say this all the time. And to anyone that's watching this that's newly floxed or think you're floxed, get out of that system. Every time I went to them, they made me sicker. Every prescription they gave me was contraindicated and made me sicker. Every MRI, every CAT scan, I just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I feel like if I didn't do any of that, um, I I don't know if I would have ended up on hospice. Maybe if I still did, it wouldn't have been in 5 months. It just rapidly declined me, and that's why I say like I knew getting out of that is what I was going to have to do to save my life. So almost all my doctors now are functional medicine doctors, are naturopaths. Obviously, I have to have a primary care physician, insurance wise. Um, that's probably like 10% of my care, and the other 90 I don't go into that system because if anybody out there is sick or has an injury or any illness that doesn't fit nicely in that box, I can't think of a better way to say this, but you're screwed. Like, this is the way they're taught, this is their checklist that they use, and if you don't fit it, they don't know what to do. And you're on your own, and you have to figure it out on your own by yourself, which is very unfortunate because I'm not a doctor. I had no idea what to do. I had to figure it out painfully, mistake after mistake after mistake. So, yeah.
That's so well said. Okay, so I have so many questions. When did you or how did you find out about the word flux or that term? And then how did the other guy, did you ever find out about the word cam or whatever, she has this and try to get these medicines?
Mast
And
cell,
then I
MCAT,
think so.
yeah.
Yeah. And then who was helping your husband while you were down for the count?
Remember, I told you I left the Western medical system and I started meeting with a functional medicine neurologist. And I met with her. It was like a 2.5 hour visit. When would you ever have a 2.5 hour visit with a regular doctor? And she did all these weird tests. To me, they were weird. I never experienced anything like that before. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to test you for myasthenia gravis," and like all these things she wanted to test me for. And then when I went home 2 hours after my visit, she called me and she said, "Remember what I was telling you about all those things I wanted to test you for?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Scratch that. You've been floxed." I said, "I've been what?" She said, "I took your case to all of my, like, the people that she practices with, and she read my case and all my symptoms. And she said, 'You've been floxed. It happened to somebody on my team.'" And I was like, "Wait, you have somebody, a practitioner there that's been floxed?" And she said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wait, can you spell this for me so I can Google it? Because I don't know what this is." And she said, "I know what it is, but unfortunately, I don't know how to treat it. I don't have that kind of experience." So I had to leave her and seek out other um, care. But she was the one that first alerted me to the word floxed, and then Then that led me to fluoroquinolone toxicity. I had no idea what any of this stuff was. The guy that you mentioned with MCAS, that was one of your questions. He still has some fluoroquinolone toxicity symptoms. I really do think that many of us have like lingering ones, but he's able to live his normal life. But he was with his girlfriend at the time, and he almost passed away too because he wasn't eating either, and he was eating like two foods. And then once he focused on mast cell, he was able to expand his foods, and he's better. um I'm better. I'm not on hospice, but it's not better to be eating five foods and still in the hospital bed, right? So it's, I'm better than I was before, but not where I need to be. But he did get better. He did, which I'm very happy, and I'm very grateful for him that what's the word? He doxed himself. He said, I don't want to get doxed. Like, he's on Reddit, and he just called my husband. My husband was crying. My wife's dying. And so he just called him, and yeah, if you're watching, I always say this. Thank you. So, yeah, that was a great source of my anxiety at the time because I didn't know what was going to happen. So, we literally had to hire two sets of caregivers. That's what we have right now, people that take care of me and people that take care of him. So, yeah, yeah.
That's insane. And I mean, financially, wow.
It's destroyed us. I worked so hard to retire at 50, and that's the only reason why I had any kind of money saved. You blow through all that, then you just start selling everything that you have to survive, literally selling everything. Cars,
Mm.
investments, like whatever you can, just to keep getting care. A portion of his is covered by the military, obviously, but most of it is not. So most of our care is out of pocket, unfortunately. I don't know how much longer we go on like this, but it's the way it is for now.
Do you have a way that people can donate?
My father
Go ahead.
started a GoFundMe, so that's out there. He started that a couple of months ago, out there to help me because he knew it's getting pretty dicey over here after being sick for 4.5 years and care for the both of us. So he ended up doing that for me. So yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. And I can put that link here when we get finished if you want to send it to me. And then also, what about the lady who had flocks and was still a practitioner?
She was the same thing. She was back to practicing because she was there when they went over my case. She was actively working, but she too had lingering things. I think like peripheral neuropathy is one of the things that people say they have lingering, like joint pain sometimes, but it wasn't enough to prevent her from working. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, let's move on to these questions. What do people often misunderstand about fluoroquinoxalin toxicity? Do people
Oh, yeah.
misunderstand it?
They misunderstand so much about fluoroquinolone toxicity. So, one of the things I said right at the beginning was that it's all forms, eye drops, eardrops. People think just because they stick it in their ear and it's not going like in their system that they won't get flocks. That is not true. People have gotten flocks from one eye drop in the eye. Think of where your eye is anyway, right? Close to here. But it's all forms of fluoroquinolones. The other thing that people don't realize, which can be absolutely devastating to somebody, is they say, I've taken a fluoroquinolone before. I took Cipro or Leverquin, whatever. I didn't have a reaction, so I'll be fine the next time I take it. I cannot tell you how many people have reached out to me and told me, like, I took Cipro 5 times, and on the sixth time, I'm bedbound and I can't move, and I think I'm dying. And it's like the effects of fluoroquinolones are cumulative. That toxicity builds up in you. Some people are able to hold it off longer for whatever reason that may be. We don't know. You don't get sick till you're, sixth or seventh time taking it. Or you have people like me that get sick off of 3 pills. I know people sick off of one pill, just one pill. What you know, we say it's like a bomb went off in our body. And the other thing that the FDA says, like, and I try to stress this to people all the time. This isn't Talia saying this. This is me basically regurgitating what the FDA is saying. You can have adverse reactions months after you stop taking the antibiotic. So people say, oh, I just finished it, I'm good. And then 3 months later, they take an NSAID, they take a steroid, they do something, and all of a sudden, they're like falling apart. And like, what just happened? They're not equating that it was that fluoroquinolone that they took, all those months ago. And then they took something that was contraindicated. And then they go down this whole other path, these poor people that are like, they're getting diagnosed with fibromyalgia, MS, and it's the fluoroquinolone that did it. They just don't realize it because months have gone by and they didn't experience anything right away. So they think they were scot free. So those are the things that I just want to say over and over again. It's all forms of fluoroquinolones. Fluoroquinolone toxicity is cumulative. You can get sick even if you've taken it before, and you can experience adverse effects months, some people even a year after taking the fluoroquinolone. So these are things that people need to be aware of when they've taken that brand of medication. I speak, and then people say, oh my God, I'm holding the prescription in my hand right now. I just finished the bottle. Okay, well, now there's things you need to be on the lookout for. Now there's things you need to avoid to try to prevent fluoroquinolone toxicity. So it's all in knowing, right? Knowledge is power. I wish I knew then what I know now. I wish I saw a me back then, but I didn't. I wasn't even on social media, so I was so clueless.
Oh, wow. So the doctor that when you rolled yourself in, he told you that he knew exactly the medicine that it was.
They
How
call
did
it an adverse reaction to medication. That's what it's documented as.
Wow. So he knows this is common, and yet they continue to prescribe it?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, that's just obviously not for you to answer, but my mind is there.
I can't tell you how many medical professionals along the way have told me, why the heck were you prescribed a a machine gun to kill a fly instead of a fly swatter, right? Like I'm making those words up because everybody has their own things that they throw in there, but it was such a small, simple, uncomplicated urinary tract infection that in no way warranted a fluoroquinolone, and it's supposed to be used as last resort only. That's very important. I forgot to say that. Fluoroquinolones in 2016, the FDA released another black box warning that said, due to the permanent and disabling side effects, they should be used as last resort only when no other treatment options are available, and they shouldn't be used for simple, uncomplicated UTIs. I did not know this, obviously. So people say, well, your doctor gave it to you because you had no other options. Nope. My doctor gave that to me because that's what they always prescribed at that office. And they weren't following the guidelines. Because the second I got sick, I was prescribed Augmentin. I could have been prescribed Augmentin first, or second, or third, or whatever. Fluoroquinolone should have been last on the list. And so that didn't happen. And so that's why I say there's this huge breakdown, communication breakdown between the pharmaceutical companies, the FDA that's saying these guidelines, the doctors that are prescribing it to you, the pharmacists that are giving you the prescription. I have doctors saying, I've never heard of this. I've been a doctor 20 years and I've never heard this. I have other doctors that say, we've known about this forever. The black box warnings have been out. We've known so long. There's no, there's no like in between. I feel like the doctors either don't know or they know. And it's the same with pharmacists and everybody along this path. Like if you look at my social media videos, you will see people arguing like, I've never heard of this before, I'm a pharmacist. And then another pharmacist will jump in and say, how could you not know this? And I just see that as a patient, like, what are we dealing with in this medical system? This whole thing is broken. I just, I feel like so many people have said like that it's not the doctor's responsibility. Doctors don't know medication. I think that's BS. I don't think if you don't know what a prescription does and what the negative side effects of it are, don't write the prescription. Don't write it. And if they have the power to do that, there's something very wrong here. But I just think the reason why they're writing these scripts is because they're just used to doing it. And I guarantee you, if there were any kind of ramification for not following these guidelines, they wouldn't do it. Because when I met with the FDA and I had that conversation with them, I said, it's like the wild, wild west out there. How come you put out these guidelines and no one has to listen to you? And they said to me, well, Talia, we don't have enforcement at the state and local level. So what's the point then? You just put out these warnings to CYA for you, so you can't be sued, or the pharmaceutical companies can't be sued, and the doctors don't have to listen to you. It doesn't make any sense to me. If that in and of itself changed, it, it'd be a whole different situation. Or even if we had informed consent, that's one of the things that I have out right now. So if no one along the way is going to tell us the dangers of these medications, and it's going to continue to be the wild, wild west, and people are going to continue to prescribe it and not tell us the dangers. At least if we have informed consent, then the doctor is forced to tell us, and we're forced to sign a paper. And in that way, we know at that moment, and we can say, I want an alternative. I don't want to take this for a UTI. But even that doesn't exist. It's just failure point after failure point, and people are continuing to get floxed. They say it's rare. How do they know? How does anybody know how rare this is? Because when you actually get floxed, you have to self-report to MedWatch. Your doctor doesn't report anything. So how do they come up with these numbers? Do you know how many people self-report? I can tell you for a fact, not many people. It's a very long process. They're sick, they're traumatized, and so these numbers come out looking low. And to the people that get prescribed fluoroquinolones, they say, it's so rare. I can take it. No big deal. And here we are. So you can see I'm very passionate about this and frustrated because I feel like there's so many things that could be put into place to protect us. Like informed consent is one easy way to protect us. And we don't have that. I mean, we'll have the codes in October, which is great. And those codes will provide metrics. And I guarantee you it's not going to be 1 to 2% that the FDA said. Nope. I guarantee you it won't be. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that you can self-report.
You
Like,
have to.
that the doctor wouldn't do that for you while you're in
Nope,
bed.
they don't.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You have to self-report, you said?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. If you don't, you're just not going to be counted as an adverse reaction.
Do they tell you? Do they inform you that that exists?
No, you know how I
So
found
then how
out?
would you know? Yeah.
Because of that guy that reached out to my husband that said, make sure she self reports and she reports it to MedWatch. He told my husband. I had no idea. It's crazy,
Yeah, who
right?
does? Yeah, that's insane. The doctor who recommended the pill be
Malpractice.
reported as malpractice.
Well, we're trying. Like, you have to do that, like, with an attorney and stuff. So we're trying that because she failed. Um, she didn't inform me, and I specifically asked. Right? And that's not just the only bad thing. So first of all, you tell me that something is safe when there are so many black box warnings. That is your chance to warn the patient. So failure to warn. But then when I go back to you and I'm falling apart, and she said right away, I know it's because of Cipro. I just don't understand why. I won't even get into that part of the story. But the part of the story that's wrong on every single level is that I brought the FDA warning to her. I printed it out and I brought it to her and said, "Look, last resort only, permanent and disabling side effects." She was so unhappy with me and said that she was going to continue to prescribe this medication because her office always has, and no one has had a reaction like me before. That was her response to me. So that just goes to show you that she didn't care, right? That's like a total slap in the face after a decade. I can't believe a doctor would respond that way, knowing forget what happened to me. Just read the stupid paper, read the warning, and you see that you're doing the exact opposite of what it says. And you still say, I'm going to do it. I don't care. No one's had these reactions except you, she says to me.
Wouldn't
So,
that be negligence?
yeah, it is. It is.
And if there's other medications that work and
Yeah.
it's not a last resort, why wouldn't they go ahead and prescribe that instead?
From habit. Like I told you, I got prescribed Augmentin after Cipro. I had other options. I saw the list when they brought it up in front of me. I said, what are all these things? And they said, these are all the antibiotics that your um, organism is susceptible to. I said, oh my God, this list is so huge. It's crazy to me.
That is. I don't know if I've ever had a UTI, but if I had, I don't know if I got medication for it. I thought back in the day you just drank cranberry juice and then it helped you.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they try to scare you now too. And I mean, people do get sepsis, but they were like, oh, if you, when they prescribed me Augmentin, I refused to take it because of what had just happened to me with Cipro. And I was told, if you don't take Augmentin, you will get sepsis and you will die. In those exact words. I didn't take Augmentin. I didn't get sepsis. Nothing happened. And I think Cipro, as strong as it was, probably killed my teeny weeny little UTI. That's probably what happened. But they tell you that. They tell you have to take an antibiotic to get rid of it. So if your doctor's telling you that, most people aren't going to try and be au natural with cranberry juice or D-mannose or any of the supplements that people use. They get scared and they say, my doctor said I'm going to get sepsis. I'm going to take an antibiotic. And I'm not advocating for people to not take antibiotics. I'm just saying this is the situation that I went through. So,
Off subject, my dog had an ear thing and we got meds for it. And I try not to take Tylenol or anything because I just don't trust the system. And of course, now it's coming out that you shouldn't be taking them, and most people take them like pills every day. But anyway, I was like, how long do I take this for? My brain is like, until that is gone. And he was like, oh, until the bottle's empty. I did not listen, and I just waited till it was gone. She was all better, so I just have it until if she gets it again, I have to use some more, but, like, there's no point of continuing to use it, and they will tell you, "Well, it could return," or, all these other reasons why to continue taking something, but, yeah, I didn't have to continue using it. I don't know if she would have had any issues with it, but, I mean, that's how I am. It's just so hard to trust the
yeah.
people in the medicine world. And then I'm a exercise physiologist, so working in the hospital, you would work with orthopedic people and they would just like, oh, you're not supposed to do this and that. I'm like, you are not, that is out of your scope of practice. Your job is to do surgery. Your job is not to prescribe. You're not supposed to do squats below your knee range. Like that is my scope. So you just do the surgery and then you leave the rest, to me or to the professionals in this area. Or the doctors would tell my clients like, don't eat bananas, they has too much sugar. I'm like, is your doctor, first of all, in shape? Probably not. They never really are. And second of all, that's out of their scope of practice. It shouldn't be. We should all learn so much information so that people don't get blurred between the lines. But a lot of the people that I worked with, they will go straight to the doctor. Oh, my doctor said this, and they are king of no matter what anybody else
Hmm.
says. That's why there's dietitians around. That's why there's professionals in those categories around to help you. Like the doctor is not the know all be all.
We're just taught that what doctors say is gospel and we should
Mhm.
listen to them. So that's the way I was raised. So,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see. You're driven to raise this awareness despite your challenges. So talk us through what some of those challenges are from running this mission and getting the word out. How are you overcoming all of these obstacles? What are the next steps if you know of them?
so for me to be able to do this is a lot because I require, like I said, I'm on palliative care. I require 24/7 care. I can't really walk well, can't get in and out of bed. My aides do everything for me. So I literally have to, can you iron my clothes, like my shirt today? Can you pick up my clothes? Can you, get me up in the morning, put my iPad here, my stand, my like set me up and do all this. Like I'd never be able to do it if I didn't have that help. So that's the first thing. Like I need assistance to literally do everything. I absolutely hate it. But this is where my body is right now. And physically, this takes a big toll on me because I save up all my energy for this advocacy and I do a podcast or whatever. And then usually I'm in bed for the rest of the day. Or it's, but this is the sacrifice I'm making to be an advocate. Because this is, it's trying to balance like wanting to be an advocate with what's happening in my body, right? My body's only capable of doing so much. Do I push it to the limit sometimes? Yes. Did I before? Yes, before I got sick. I'm just used to doing that. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm saying that I pay the consequences afterwards. And then, I'll do something a couple days later. Like I would never schedule anything back to back 2 days in a row. There's no way. But my advocacy is just, it's so important because, like I always say, if they're not going to do anything from the top down, which clearly they're not, we have to do it from the bottom up. And I can't tell you how many people have sent me messages saying, "You saved my life." I get them almost every single day. How can I stop? How can I slow down when I get messages like that? And my husband says to me sometimes, "Well, oh, what are you putting yourself, like you're putting your own health on the back burner for everybody else?" And I mean, there's truth in that. And you see what I'm saying? Like, there's this balance that I have not been able to figure out yet because of how many people that are floxed and how many people that need help. And I just feel compelled to help them. I'm still going through my stages of grief. I told you I catapulted all the way to acceptance. And then once I was like, oh my God, I'm going to live, and you start letting all these feelings out, all this grief and loss and sadness that I just resonate so deeply with people. So when they call me or they leave me messages or they're crying or they're scared, it just brings me back to that place and it breaks my heart. And I'm like, if I had anybody to help me back then, anybody, it could have changed the course of what happened to me. So if I can be that person, I just have to. Like, I can't live with myself if I don't. I don't know how any other way to explain it. Like, I just feel compelled to do it. And, I know part of it is anger. Anger, like, how could you do this to us? How come nobody cares? Well, I care and I'm going to help people. So that part fuels me too, but it definitely takes a toll on me. But like I said, like, I just have to do it. I don't feel any way of me not doing this. And as long as those messages come, then I know I'm making a difference and I have to keep going. I have to keep going, and I hope that one day there'll be people that'll be like, "Oh, I saw her story so many times already," because so many people already know. But I'm still posting stuff and people are still like, "I never heard of this before." I've been doing this now for almost 2 years, and there's so many people it's the first time they still met me or heard my story. So I know there's still an audience out there that needs to be grabbed, that needs to be made aware.
Yes, I mean, even I had never heard of Fox. This is all new to me. And I think you're doing amazing things, and I don't see it hurting continuing to share the story because I mean, as humans, I feel like we're always, what's the point? I feel like people are going to get so tired of hearing this. But it's just
I
like
feel like
you
that sometimes
hear,
too.
yeah. And then you hear of the people that message you and they're saying, it changed their life, it helped them avoid it or, help them realize what's going on within them so that they know the proper next step to take in their care. So I
Right.
think,
And help them get through it. Like they're struggling. People want to end things. They think it'd be easier to leave than to stay. And there's been a lot of people that are floxed that go to Switzerland and get approved to take, you know,
yeah,
They go to Switzerland and they don't come back. Let's just say that. And it's heartbreaking that we feel, they feel like it's the only option we have, because there's no cure for fluoroquinolone toxicity. There is only treatments that people have come up with that they think help. Dr. Stefan Pipa is one of the best doctors out there, who's helped me and he helps a lot of floxies. And the way he describes us, when I had him on my show, he said, it's like you're part of the leper colony, which is true. It's like we're these outcasts that nobody believes or takes seriously. All of us are labeled as like psychiatric patients. This isn't psychiatric. We have real, legitimate physical illness. And, when people come to me, like they're looking for me to validate what they're going through, that it's real. I'm like, of course it's real. It's not in your head. And they have family members and friends that don't believe them, and they get left. And it's very, very sad. People don't like sick people, like maybe for a little while, but then once you've been sick too long, nobody wants to deal with you. And that's why I keep telling everybody that reaches out to me, and if you're watching this and I've talked to you, that I always say, like, what's this one thing you can't live without? What is that? For me, that was my stepkids and my husband. Whatever that thing or person is, hold on to that in your darkest moments, because it's going to be dark. And it's going to be dark for a long time, but hold on to it and don't let it go. It will get you through. And I also say, keep one foot in the light. It's okay. It's okay to go through what we're going through and be depressed and sad and feel all this darkness, but keep one foot in the light so you don't get lost, so you have a way to get back to the light when you're ready. Because if I can do it, so can you. There aren't that many people that have been this super floxed. There are people super floxed like me, but there aren't that many. So that's why I say, if I can do it, so can you. And when people say, I can't do it, I can't take it one more day. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. What is that thing that's going to help you get through it? Hold it, hold it, hold it. Like, and that's been my thing that I say all the time, until there's nothing left. When you're at the point and there's actually nothing left, versus just being upset that day. I can't do this anymore, right? No,
Mm.
you're not at that point that there's nothing left. You have to keep going. Because I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It's pain like you can never imagine. It's isolation. It's just like you're like Tom Hanks alone on that island all by yourself, Castaway, whatever that movie was called. That's exactly what it feels like, except you're sick. And that's why I try to help bring people back to the land of the living. They feel like they're on their way out. So didn't I. I literally was on my way out. Um, so anything I can do to help people not feel so alone, or that they have no options. And I say it's going to get worse before it gets better. This isn't unicorns and rainbows. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's going to get worse. So lean in. Just lean into it and get through it. Like, I'm saying it like it's easy, get through it, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like, you just have to go through it to get through it. How do they say it? Go to it to get through it. I don't know what that saying is, but you get what I'm trying to say. And that's why I've become like very vocal about even my emotions and feelings now. Like, stop holding that in, let it out. Like, stop trying to be this poised person on social media. Nope, just let it go. And that's what I've done. And every little bit of it is healing me in some way. The unfortunate part for me is that all this advocacy doesn't help me really. I mean, it kind of helps me heal, but physically, it doesn't really help me. When you get floxed, I feel like there are some people that get floxed that have so many central nervous system issues. I do too, but they will have like brain fog and memory loss, and it's very hard for them to keep coherent thoughts because our mitochondria is damaged. Of course, we're all going through that. And then you have people that are so physically damaged. For me, I'm lucky. If I can take a silver lining out of this, I'm lucky that I have most of the capacity here. I'm still affected. I know I am. I'm not as sharp as before, even though people say you're so sharp. But again, if you saw me before, there is a difference. But I'm fortunate that this was kept mostly intact. The problem with that is that this is 10 steps ahead and this is 10 steps behind. And so that's the predicament I'm in. I wake up in my brain thinking I'm going to hop out of this bed and be myself. And then I quickly realize as I can't even turn over in bed by myself, I can't. And so this is what I'm struggling with, why my mind is so ready, so there, and my body is not. And I'm just hoping that someday that won't be the case. But it's been a long time, and as long as it goes on, I start to lose hope. But at the same time, I go back and look at old videos, and I see there is a progression. Even though it feels small to me, I can't necessarily see it or feel it myself unless other people tell me, or I'm actively going back and looking at old videos. I'm just so far away from where I need to go. I haven't met one single doctor that thinks I will make 100% recovery. Not one. And I'm not mad. I'm thankful that they're honest, because I honestly believe the same thing too. If I can get 70%, 80%, I'll be happy with that. Because the percentage I have right now is very low physically. If I can get some sort of independence, not some sort, if I can get independence, if I can get in and out of bed myself, if I could make my own food, if I could chew and swallow food without choking, like these are things normal people take for granted. You don't think about chewing your food, you don't think about getting out of bed, you just do it. But when you don't have those things, they're all you can think about. And so if I can just get that stuff, I will be happy. I give up on 100%. If it happens, great, it's an extra bonus, but at least get me to a place where I can be self sufficient and have some quality of life. I'll take that.
Are you working with physical therapists? Are you able and clear to try to strengthen your body? Are there any steps being taken towards that, or are you not able to introduce that yet?
I mean, there aren't really any set guidelines to any of this, what you should be doing. Some people say you shouldn't be doing physical therapy. That's how we tear tendons and rupture Achilles heels. But I've done many rounds of physical therapy actually, and I was just ordered another round of physical therapy, but we didn't move forward because I have so much inflammation in my body. My feet are huge, my knees are huge, my elbows are huge, that when my physical therapist came, and I love this woman. She came and she said, I'm just going to do you more harm. Look how big your knees are and your ankles are. And if we don't, if someone doesn't figure out how to get the systemic inflammation to go down, I'm going to cause you more harm, because when I do physical therapy with you, I'm going to cause inflammation. And I don't feel it's safe for you to do that. So she left and she gave me some exercises I could do sitting down. I'm always doing whatever I can. Teach me stuff sitting down, even if I can't walk. Like, I'm always doing my little exercises every day. I'm like this with my phone. I use my phone as a weight because an actual weight's too heavy. But I'm always, trying as best as I can. But yeah, it was very disheartening to hear that. But she's right, because we tried one day to do therapy and my whole leg was so big. I'd never seen my leg that big before. And I knew that she was right. I wanted to push forward, and I have to accept my limitations as much as I don't want to up here. I have to.
That's just disheartening in so many levels. Um,
Yeah.
do you get to see your family, your kids and your husband?
My husband comes to visit me every day. I just saw my stepdaughter. She flew out here to see me in August. My stepson's a little harder. He's in the military, so I haven't seen him for a couple of years. But my stepdaughter's pretty much every year. She leaves college and comes to visit me in the summer. Yeah, and my local family that's around, I see them from time to time. My stepfather, my father, you know. Yeah. So
Do you get to go outside?
sometimes when I go outside, I get sick. If I go in the sun, yeah, I get sick. So I have this big old hat that I've been wearing and sunglasses and sitting in the shade trying to see if that will help me. So yeah.
Oh. What advice would you give to someone who has just started experiencing adverse reactions to this class of drugs?
So the first thing I always say is, have you seen my playlist, Help I'm Floxed? That is where you should start. I have videos on what you should not do, which is sometimes more important than what you should do. Because at the beginning, it is critical that you do not make mistake or do anything to make yourself worse. So everyone that reaches out to me, I say, please watch my playlist first and then reach back out to me. The playlist includes what not to do. It also includes what you should do, an interview with Dr. Pipa. And one of the things Dr. Stefan Pipa says is when you first get floxed, do not go crazy pumping your body full of supplements. Don't go crazy, because your body is very confused. You need to give yourself a grace period, so to speak. And then after that, then I'll talk to them about like staying out of the medical system. I'm trying to think of a politically correct way to say that. And I try to tell them like, listen, you are floxed. You've watched my playlist. You're floxed. Don't go to the medical system. Keep going and trying to get diagnosed with something. I did the same thing. I wanted to get diagnosed with something so somebody would pay attention to me. If it wasn't fluoroquinolone toxicity, give me any kind of thing that a doctor will pay attention to me and treat. And I feel like people do that a lot too. They continue to go to these doctors, and that's why they're getting fibromyalgia and all these other diagnoses that they don't actually have. So they're getting these diagnoses that they don't actually have, and it just ends up making them worse. So that's some of the stuff I say. Like, first, go to my playlist. Second of all, don't go and let them go. Don't let the medical system go crazy and give you a bunch of tests that you don't need. With every test, there is a risk. For instance, CAT scans have a lot of ionized radiation, and they damage your mitochondria. When you're floxed, your mitochondria is already damaged. So every time you get a CAT scan, you make yourself worse. I won't tell you how many CAT scans I had. They're in the double digits, CAT scans. And I pray to God every day I didn't do that. And then the next thing I tell people when they struggle is that you're going to have to come to a place where you realize that you are never going to be the same. There is nobody that gets floxed, heals, and forgets about it and never thinks about it again. There's always things that we have to think of and be aware of lifelong. Like there are doctors that say lifelong we should never take steroids ever, or NSAIDs, or gadolinium, stuff like that. So this will be an ongoing thing that we're going to have to deal with. Even if you end up being 95% recovered, it's still always going to have to be something in the back of your mind. But that's my place to start. Watch my playlist. Don't go and get yourself tested for everything under the sun. That was a big mistake of mine. And somehow getting to that place in your mind that you're not going to be the same.
When you say playlist, does that mean on your
I have it on YouTube, and I also have the playlist on TikTok. And it says
okay.
like help, I'm floxed, and you just click on that and have all the videos in the order that I want them to see, like what not to do, symptoms, information about fluoroquinolone toxicity that they should know. And then at the end it ends with Dr. Pipa saying what you need to do. Like, you don't need to do any crazy treatments, just give your body minerals and nutrients, and then your body will want to repair itself. But when people first get floxed, the first thing they say, get it out of me. How do I get it out of me? How do I detox? And they start doing all these things, taking all these supplements, glutathione, and they get worse, and they're so sick. And then now they went from here, they went behind, down. So to get them back up to try to recover, they've already taken 10 steps back before they even started. So this is why I say, please watch those playlists before you do anything else. It's a very scary thing. And Like I said, there's no standard treatment protocol anywhere. So you go online and you follow what people say worked for them. It does not mean it's going to work for you. And they can get themselves into a lot of trouble doing those things. So,
How can our audience support your advocacy efforts and help spread awareness? Help you alongside this journey?
first thing I would say is for everyone to sign the informed consent petition on change.org. That's the first thing that can be done. It's so easy, it's free. It literally takes 1 minute just to go out there and request informed consent so other people don't get harmed. The other thing is for people to tell their stories. Tell them, shout it from the rooftops, I say. If you're on social media, make a video. If you want to write a post, write a post. If you're in a newspaper article, post it. We have to keep showing the world how prevalent this is and what we go through. So, you know, make sure, oh, that's the other thing, report it to MedWatch to get the numbers, to get included in the numbers. So report it to MedWatch and tell your story and sign the informed consent petition. And we have Fluoroquinolone Toxicity Awareness Day coming up on October 22nd. So participating in that day is important. So that's the day that we post all of our stories and post videos, and we just flood social media with everything related to fluoroquinolone toxicity and being floxed. It's like any other awareness day, right? Participating in that is helpful. Even if you don't have to be in front of a camera, you can just post stuff, post other people's stories. Um, those are the things that I think, like, because I always say that, you know, the saying, the squeaky wheel gets greased, right? So if we keep screaming and shouting from the rooftops, eventually we become a noise that they can no longer ignore. And the only way that happens is if we're all in this together, shouting from the rooftops, sharing our stories, and supporting each other. Share each other's stories, not just your own. Share everything you see that comes out about fluoroquinolone toxicity. These are ways we can raise awareness. The codes come out October 1st, and 21 days later, we have fluoroquinolone toxicity. So,
What message do you most want the medical community and patients to hear?
okay. You just asked me this on the spot, but I have like 10 things in mind. So, okay. First of all, to doctors and patients, right? Even if this, even if fluoroquinolone toxicity is not something you understand, all you need to do is research it. A 5-minute Google search instead of denying that this exists, right? That it's right there, right? So this would be my ask of patients and practitioners and pharmacists, because patients are also, they're also in denial too, like it can't be this. No, it's this, right? So all you need to do is just Google it, look at other people's stories. And to the practitioners, it's as simple as this. Like, it sounds simple, but I don't know why it can't be done. Listen to your patients. And just because something hasn't come across your your office before, or you haven't seen it, doesn't mean it's not real or that it doesn't exist. There are stories of there being doctors like Doogie Howser and the Good Doctor, right? Because there's always these rare cases of things that doctors will put the time into research, right? I'm not saying any doctor, like, that's not my message, to go out there and be Doogie Howser and figure it out. I'm just saying, just listen to your patients. And if you could understand the damaging effects that it has when you don't listen to a patient and you immediately attach them with a psychiatric issue. The problem here is that when we're gaslit and doctors aren't paying attention to us and they're saying our boxes don't fit nicely, our symptoms don't fit nicely in a box, of course they don't fit nicely in a box. The FDA says it won't fit nicely in a box. It affects every part of your system. It doesn't mean that there's a psychological aspect to it. But a medical doctor will say that you have some sort of psychiatric illness that they never even tested you for, right? When did we ever have this conversation or whatever testing you do to say I'm whatever, right? So that's the thing. So you put this on someone's medical records, and then from here on out, you damage them. Every time they go to a new doctor or they go to an emergency room, they see that you've labeled them as a psychiatric patient or have some kind of psychiatric issues, and then they're dead in the water. They're never going to get any help because they're always looked at that they have a psychological issue and their physical issues are always ignored. So that would be a huge thing to the medical community. If you don't, even if you don't want to look it up or acknowledge it, please do not diagnose people with psychological disorders that you have not tested them for. Or even as a PCP, are you even equipped to diagnose someone with a psychiatric illness, right? Like it's so damaging and then it ruins us going forward. We are never taken serious. We go into the emergency room, oh, I see this on the charts, and then we're totally written off. So that's my thing. And for the patients that are getting diagnosed with these, don't accept the diagnosis. Fight back. Say you want, put it in your medical records that you don't agree. Fight back. Don't just let them put whatever they want in the medical records. And if you go back and find stuff you don't like in the medical records, confront them as well. This is your medical history. These are your medical records that are going to be used to determine the course of action for you going forward. And if doctors are putting in things in there that you don't agree with, you have to stick up for yourself. You have to be your own advocate. This is not, the doctors are not going to do that for you anymore. Maybe you're going to find a needle in a haystack and you have this amazing doctor that's going to go to bat for you. But that is not the way generally the medical system works anymore. We get our 15 minutes in and that's it. And we get referred out to all these other doctors who do not communicate to each other. We have to be the ones to pull it together for ourselves. So that would be my spiel to doctors and to patients that, we don't have to just deal with everything that's done to us. Just because the doctor says it doesn't make it so, which I used to think that it did, but I know that it doesn't. So, is that too
That's so
harsh?
important. No, I mean, I don't think so. I completely 100% agree. And oh, I had something to add or say to the doctor thing. I can't remember. Went out of the window, my brain window.
My doctor, what's frustrating is she said, I know it has something to do with Cipro. I know it for sure. You were completely fine until you took Cipro. And then as I got sicker, she kept saying, well, it can't be Cipro. It's out of your body. Oh my God. If you just did a 5-minute research and looked at fluoroquinolone toxicity and the mitochondria damage and how it goes in your cells and it stays, you will see that the patient gets worse after the medication leaves. Forget the half-life of fluoroquinolones. That's out the door. This is not a regular medication. It's like totally infuriating to me. Like, and then I kept getting, patient continues to say she's floxed. It was like this in my notes, floxed. And it's like, as much as I beg, just look it up. Just wouldn't do it. And I think that's just from a medical perspective and just a pure human perspective. You have someone that's never been sick in front of you, and I actually said, when have I ever been sick? She said, never. You only come here for your yearly visits. Well, then shouldn't you take me more seriously? Not that other people shouldn't be taken seriously, but if this is the first time I've come to you with something and it's extinction level event, you should have taken me more seriously. And all the other doctors out there should too. When they see a patient that's completely healthy and then crashes out like that, there's something there, whether you understand it or not.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to speak on. There was actually, and I need to dig into this and do research, but there was actually a thing that somebody spoke up about, and it was how this one guy, psychiatrics, didn't believe in the way they created the psych words. He didn't believe that, like, how can you diagnose somebody with that? There is no science that helps you with that. It's just all created by people and there's nothing to back them up. And so he had sent people in to the psych ward and see if they can be spotted. And they were just treated as psych patients. And there was nothing that they can do or say to really get out. So they had to pretend they took the meds and just kind of help themselves get out of there because, once you're in, you can't get out. And then they got so mad that they were trying to, I don't know, come back to him or something. And they're like, well, our psych wards, we know what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, send us your people and we'll be able to call out the ones who shouldn't be there. He's like, okay. And so months later, they ended up spotting out all these people. Well, he had never sent anybody into the psych wards. So they were just, again, just placebo effect, showing that that's not the case. Like, there's no one in this world who can just be, oh, yeah, they have a psych problem. It could be, flux, it could be autism, it could be, all of these different things that doesn't make them a psychiatric patient.
Mhm.
So it's just fascinating to me. What does it mean for you to be in the black?
Okay, so what it means for me to be in the black. I have a lot of things that are in the red. So for me to be able to move forward, I have to focus on what is black, right? I have to focus on the fact that I can swallow pills now and not choke on them every single time. I focus on the fact that I'm gaining weight, even though I'm eating the same 5 foods every day. So the point is focusing on what I do have and trying to strengthen that instead of focus what's in the red. Focusing on the red makes me so depressed and so sad and wishing I had my old life back and all of that. So the only way I can survive every day is to focus on what's in the black. What do I have that's still positive? And if I can find something positive in my day, in this day of all that I go through every single day, most people can find something positive too. I have people that come to me all the time and say, everything sucks. There's nothing good in my life, nothing, not one thing. I don't believe that. I just believe they're so upset they can't see the black, right? They can't see it. But for everyone out there that's watching this, her question is so important because the only way you will make it out of this is if you focus on the black. You focus on the positive. You focus on what you do have. So people will say to me like, um, I'm rolling myself in my wheelchair or whatever, and I'm thinking, I would love to roll myself in my wheelchair, right? They're thinking it's so horrible. I'm thinking it's like an additional thing I'd like to do, right? So it's all in perspective. So you have to figure out what that is for yourself. And I figured that out for myself. I woke up, I'm in the black. Is today worse? I always say, today doesn't have to be better than yesterday. It just doesn't have to be worse. That's where I'm at now. Is it worse? No. Okay, I'm in the black. My husband comes to see me. I'm in the black. I ate all my foods today. I'm in the black. And I do that all day. These are the things that I'm grateful for in the black. These are the things I'm grateful for. You cannot survive life or any illness without seeing the positive. There's no way. There's no way. I know negative people stay sick longer. I know it without a doubt. I've seen it from all the people that I talk to. So you have to find what that thing is. Even if it's one thing, and just focus on that. And you'll be surprised that one thing turns into 2 to 3, and then you have a list. They say, like in some of the courses I take, like have a gratitude journal and write 3 things that you're thankful for every day. Maybe that'll help you, right? My list turned to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, right? I'm thankful for everything I have, for every moment I'm above ground because I was not supposed to be here. But I'm here, and every day my husband rolls in and I see him, black, the highlight of my day. So,
That's beautiful. What are the 5 foods that you can eat?
chicken, coconut milk, it's used to blend my food, cauliflower, I lost asparagus, and then gluten-free oatmeal and blueberries, but all of it's pureed. It all looks like liquid. Yeah, that's it. So I eat like the
Wow.
chicken twice a day, eat oatmeal 2, 3 times a day. It's just the same thing over and over again. But I have a friend that eats one. She eats chicken.
Wow.
That's it. Hmm.
Is your friend near you in the same area or a
No, she's
different?
in California, but she's just one food. She had chicken and oatmeal, but she lost oatmeal, so hopefully chicken can sustain her for a while. So,
Wow. And you reach out with people and talk on a daily or often?
yeah,
Yeah.
every day I'm talking to people every day. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So, where can our listeners find you?
I can actually give you my link tree because my link tree just links you everywhere you need to go. I'm under Finding Vulneraries. There's a reason for that name, but it's Finding Vulneraries is my link tree, and that will point you to my GoFundMe. It'll point you to my website. This is floxed.com. So people that are floxed should go out and check that resource as well. So there's all stuff about mast cell and practitioners and stuff like that. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. I'm everywhere on social media, but I think that a Linktree is probably the best way because once you get there, you can just click all over the place. Linktree also has old interviews. So for people that just find me, they say, "What's your whole story?" And I say, "Just watch any one of my interviews and you'll see the whole story." So
Well, that's so good. I will share that. Is there anything that I didn't get to ask or that you didn't get to share that you'd like to share?
I just like to say to everybody out there that's flocks that I see you, I hear you, even if other people don't. And don't give up. Keep fighting. It will get better. I've gotten better with with no fancy detox or any special things your like Dr. Pieper said, your body wants to heal itself. It tries, it just sometimes doesn't have the tools it needs to do that. And so that's why my recovery's taken longer because I ended up getting mast cell, limiting me to foods and supplements. But there are plenty of people that don't have mast cell or have it to a lesser degree that can heal faster than me. So steady wins the race. I would say to everyone that's flocks, don't go crazy because you're just going to set yourself back. Don't go crazy at the beginning. You're just going to set yourself back in your recovery. And get the support in any way that you can. If it's not your family or friends, maybe it's people on social media. I have people on social media I feel closer to than members of my own family because they understand you. Get into support groups, whatever you need to do to survive, do it and don't apologize to anybody. That's how I would leave it.
I love that. I just want to thank you so much for being on the podcast and oh, I didn't think I was gonna cry. I mean, I hope that being on this podcast will give you the reach, another reach somewhere out there, because we do just need to continue fighting the good fight, sharing, spreading awareness, spreading the word of whatever it be, your case, other people. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing. You're just a light and you're shining it as bright as you can. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. If something you heard today moved you, share it with someone you love. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Black Passion Project for more behind the scenes and guest spotlights. And remember, no matter where you've been, you're not behind. You're becoming. Stay in the black.